Pump up the volume, pump up the volume, pump up the volume, dance, dance. Okay. Hey. Hi. Hello there. Wasting some time while things happen. I am Crunk Chocolate. I'm here with my show, bro. Greggo. How you doing, my boy?
I have taken a break from eating cats and dogs to record a great podcast about wrestling.
Man, I have no idea how you got from Ohio back to Atlanta so quickly, but like shout out to oh my goodness, oh my goodness. We are here for a wonderful good time. If you are watching on YouTube right now, please hit that thumbs up, like the video, smash that thumbs up. If you're watching on Twitter, please go ahead and like the stream, retweet the stream, tweet the stream, support the community in here. And honestly, if you can, just hop over to YouTube real quick and just be like, subscribe to the network, like the video on YouTube, help a podcast out. We new here, episode 12. What? Grego?
I mean, at once upon a time, it was a concept of a plan, and then now we're 12 episodes in.
Look at us.
Magic.
Look at us. It's I have a lot of insanity going on with my own podcast. We just had a WSL podcast begin, so I'm trying to get that figured out and uploaded, and just have plenty of our own things. This is it's real exciting. Like I keep saying what Pep said. Preseason's over now, so we're at it. We're here to talk about some wrestling, baby. Let's go. I'm super excited because I want to start off, and not, I mean, I get it's about wrestling, but it's not about wrestling. It's about the media deal that they have made, the transitions that WWE is going through right now. All of their shows are on USA. Shout out to USA. Going out with a bang. NXT to CW, that begins the beginning of October.
Correct.
So a whole month on USA. That's some like they're able to like. I think we'll get into it, but I'm going to be interested to see if how much they're going to try to like push the edge a little bit, because they're going to have to go to CW and turn it back a little bit, become more family friendly.
Well, I think that with NXT, like they've never really been that
fair,
that risque, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So it probably won't be that much of a turn up or dial back or anything with them. I think that what everybody's, of course, wondering is how things are going to change, especially with Raw. I mean, I think we've already started to see like a little like things here and there, get turned up a little bit, as far as just the dialogues and just what they would do now as compared to what they would have never done back when the old man was still around. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing I'm actually kind of curious with Smackdown is with them going back from regular network TV back to cable, will it allow them to push the envelope a little bit more, not just from a content perspective, but also just from a time perspective? Because the one thing about SmackDown being on Fox was that with it being on Fox, of course, most of their local affiliates go to the local news right there at 10 o'clock. And it was like a hard cut at like 9:59, like, hey, we're not running over for shit. And now that you're back on cable, it's like, hey, we could actually, we might be able to get an extra 5 minutes, an extra 10 minutes, depending on how things go. And don't forget with this deal, they'll also be getting back. It looks like that we'll be getting back the return of a classic favorite of mine, Saturday night's main event. They'll be having quarterly specials on NBC. So, but I think with Raw, actually, I'm sure we'll probably go into it in a little bit, especially with that big change coming next month as well. I think that you're going to see a bit more competition as far as just, who's really going to stand out to get this airtime, because it's not going to be at a really big premium now.
Wow. Oh, main event will be taken more seriously. Like
I hope so. I hope so.
You think it's going to be on NBC? Was that announced?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
On Friday nights.
No, like I said, it won't be like weekly, just like it'll be like a quarterly special, things like that. So like every so often, like you'll get like probably like once like spring, fall, summer, winter, you'll probably get that quarterly special on NBC, and then of course the Smackdown will be on USA. But like because I feel like the last time they tried it, it was really like a half-ass effort, and I think that obviously, like going back from like the heyday back in the 80s, the viewing habits have changed. So it's not like you can really expect people to just be ready to watch wrestling on Saturday nights like that, especially back then when it was like coming on like 11:30. So I think that it'll be interesting to see like how they keep people interested to want to tune in live as compared to just DVRing it or streaming it and watching it on their own time.
Because will they be original matches for those? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'd assume so. I feel like you have to be. Okay. Well, then if that's going to be moved to quarterly and Raw is reportedly moving to 2 hours, what do you do with all of those people in the middle?
Well, it's funny that you asked that question, because I was just reading it looks like a snippet of an interview by the president of TKO, which is like the parent company over WWE. His name is Mark Shapiro, and what he was saying is that they're planning on cutting back, but they're also planning on cutting back on live events, pretty much like the low drawing house shows, basically. So instead of like going basically having 300 events like they typically do, they're going to go down to like 200 events. So that's a big cut for their normal touring schedule. And I think that between that and also for Raw going down to 2 hours, there is at least going down to 2 hours for the rest of the year, starting in October. They haven't quite confirmed yet what's going to be the deal when they jump to Netflix, but I'd be willing to bet that it probably won't be much more than 2 hours on Netflix if I had to guess. But I think that with that cut, that's going to be less airtime for wrestlers. Granted, it'll be great for the wrestlers from a upkeep perspective, because they won't be banging their body around no Diddy. But I think that like there's going to come a point in time where it's like, okay, I don't have as much time to stand out on TV. I don't have as much time to stand out on house shows. So something's going to have to give, and I think that it's probably going to have to lead to a decent cut in talent, which it's tough, obviously from a working perspective, but at the same time, I still feel like, even from the amount of talent that they cut like back during the pandemic, they could definitely stand to cut a little bit more, just as far as like, hey, like the people that we have here are going to be used. Like I think they're going to try to get out of the habit of just basically stockpiling a lot of talent that just aren't going to be used. I mean, they definitely have cut down a lot from the pandemic, but at the same time, again, they're still so like, because they have like a good 200 plus on the roster. Like yes. People don't see everybody that's there, and of course that's not even factoring the people that they're developing at in NXT at the Performance Center. So it's not like they're running short on talent. In fact, I probably say they're probably doing a really good job as far as developing the kids that come in through NIL and come through occasionally through the independent circuit. Like I'm like, they don't need there's a lot of guys that they're just sitting around not really progressing, and they're like, hey, we can replace you. I mean, it's like it's a cold world, but at the same time, I think the business is a different place, both from WWE as well as pro wrestling as a whole. So, sometimes you gotta go somewhere else to get your shine, and maybe into like 3 or 4 years, maybe you'll be in a different position. Like, hey, I done learned something. I done learned a new move. I done got new gear. I'm feeling fresh, and hit me back up. I mean, even take a guy like Swerve Strickland. He got released from WWE. I think it was like 3 years ago. He's now doing this thing in AEW, to the point where, depending on what you hear, they might have made an offer to try to get Swerve back, and then he ended up signing a new deal with AEW. But it happens like that sometimes, and sometimes you need to go elsewhere to get the shine that you need to show that, hey, I actually do have something that you might want, and so put me back in. It happens.
This is going to be great for all of the other wrestling companies, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. If they know how to use them, absolutely.
Fair. Incredibly fair. Very fair. I mean, just because you have the talent available doesn't mean you know how to properly book them and market and all that other stuff. But yeah, it feels like it's going to be a great purge. I guess I don't know how deep TNA is, but they've been working with them a lot. I could see that being a thing where that becomes some kind of company where they absorb TNA, and TNA ends up on some random show with 2 nights, and they're able to throw some of their over there.
It's been interesting seeing that partnership develop with TNA and NXT. Of course, last night they had Hammerstone come over from TNA to face Omos, not Omos, Obafemi, and he's a guy that's been making this name actually through another company, MLW, that he just recently signed with TNA. And he's a guy that actually, I thought that for a while, it's like if the old man was still running things, he would have been signed for WWE, because he's got the look that the old man would just be all over. But I think that this is a good platform for him. But I hope that with this partnership, of course, they're owned by Anthem, which owns Access, which is a channel that they're typically on. And I think we mentioned before, Access doesn't have the greatest reach when it comes to cable and everything. And I'm wondering if they're going to use this partnership to leverage possibly selling their rights to another channel. Of course, at the end of the day, it's about money. It's I don't think Anthem would or should have a hang up as far as having their property on another channel if it's making them money. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If it enhances your assets value by being on another channel, I say go for it. And I think that it's something that it gives obviously those wrestlers a bigger opportunity to shine, which means more money for them, whether they stay in TNA or perhaps if they make the jump over to WWE or elsewhere. And I think that at the end of the day, it's all about trying to get everybody paid as however possible. Because everybody can get paid in WWE. Sometimes it's got to be elsewhere. And if this is what helps TNA, then let's do it, because we all try to eat.
Okay, so didn't get here before we kind of switched. I want to go to Raw being on Netflix. I know, perfect example, shout out to Draped in Gold, the homie Flobo Boys, was like, oh, my nieces, they watch wrestling with me, and what about them on Netflix? Will they be able to watch it? And I guess I never really thought about the kids, because I ain't got any, and exactly. Thank you for saying it for me. So I didn't really think about them. I don't think that means they're gonna have whole full-on sex scenes on it because they're on Netflix right now.
You're gonna see tetas.
I think that what is it? Whatever 17. I think that's the official, or no. They have an official rating that they're going to be. It's not more edgy, not much more edgy. It's just I think it allows them more for language and
Yeah,
like
I think what people are expecting is just for everybody to just be cussing each other out
yeah,
in every promo, and
and that's not really what I
you're gonna
think.
see some of the women walk around with in the locker room with their
Would be the
towels.
last
Oh,
one.
and they'd be like, "Oh no, my towel fell down," and like, of course they can't blur anything. Be like, "Oh yeah, we're live." So I I have much more tempered expectations. I mean, I think that you will see for the right angles, you'll see a bit more colorful language for sure.
Yes.
I think that if if again if the angle calls for it and things do get a little risque from an adult perspective, from a Shannon Sharp perspective, um, you might see that on a very rare occasion. But as far as just again, like you're not going to see like fuck bombs happening everywhere. Like that's just not going to happen. I don't think that.
Yeah, that's just not good
I
television.
think I think that people have the expectation that, like I said, there's me all over the place. I feel like when you do that, you kind of kill the wow factor when you do that, because I feel like if you saw AEW like at least like I probably say at least like a year ago, and you would see guys like John Moxley and trying to think who else, Eddie Kingston, and like they would be cussing like every other promo, and it's like it when you first do it, it'd be like ooh, but then of course it happens so often, you're like and like I said again, the wow factor kind of dissipates after a while because it happens so often. And I feel like if you don't have the general vernacular to articulate yourself without cussing. And then granted, you know, we're all adults. Everybody says shit and fuck all that all day long, but it doesn't mean that for what you're presenting, you have to do that all the time. Like I said, if you're gonna do it, make sure it counts. So that way, when it counts, it actually matters. Not to mention, people have to keep in mind that just because they can do it on Netflix doesn't mean they can do the same thing on Smackdown.
Yeah.
So there has to be a healthy balance between what they do on one show as compared to the other, because it could easily flip the other way and be like, okay, well, SmackDown is whack. They can't cuss on there. They got to mind their P's and Q's and shit, and then that ends up making SmackDown look bad because they can't get away with the same things that they can do on Netflix. And again, it's going to cause a very needed balance between sometimes pushing the envelope and then being like, hey, let's not just go all Jenna Jameson and everybody. Let's just, let's balance.
Jameson. What?
Yeah.
How old are
I
you?
mean, do you want Pinky? Do you want
How old are you? Oh my gosh. Okay.
That's
What
a whole other conversation. We'll go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
So it is though. What I want to say is I think it's going to be a change. What it really is they're going to be able to up the production value. They've already been slowly doing that with
I
like
wouldn't even say slowly. It's actually been amazing the past year. Like
yes, but they're going to be able to take it to another level.
mm,
Their cut scenes, whatever, their pre-recorded scenes and everything, those are going to look so much better. I don't know if their Netflix deal includes an actual writing team that could help them. I don't know, but you do know that the production value is gonna up even more from there. I think that's what's really going to be the big difference there. And for the people who are, I guess, worried about it becoming too adult, now you got NXT on CW. There you go.
and you know what? I'm CW NXT on the CW is actually a very interesting um situation, because not only are they moving to CW, but it also looks like they're going on the road as well. Because like the first
Yeah.
2 episodes, they'll be down the road from you in Chicago for the first episode, and then the next week they'll be down in St. Louis. I'm curious to see, like, is this going to be a permanent move where they go, or where they tour just like the other shows do, or will it be like a balance, maybe like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, to where they're on the road and then they go back to Orlando? Because I feel like, even like what we saw last night with the Street Profits and the Bloodline making cameos on the show, like, it's something easy about just hopping on a plane and going down to Orlando, because with so many of those guys who came through the PC, a lot of them still live in Florida, so it's not that difficult for them to, hop on a plane and say, "Hey, I'm going home," and then the PC is probably like within an hour from wherever they live. So it's probably not that hard for them to make that type of trip, as compared to, okay, I got to go out to El Paso for NXT type, and like, that wasn't really in my plans, but we'll make it work. So, but
No,
yeah, I feel like have an increased platform, because technically CW is network TV just like Fox was, so there is opportunity where they probably can get a much larger audience, and probably put those prospects in a position where when they do jump over to the main roster, they're really ready to go in and become a really big deal.
I thought about going to that NXT because, yeah, it's super close. But that weekend, I'm going to the Twin Cities. One, to go kick it with the Twin Cities Man City Official Supporter Club, and a homie of mine, their band is doing a album release concert party. So I'm going and gonna kick it with them. So I'm going up to Minnesota. Minnesota. We out here.
Get you a Juicy Lucy.
I mean, I do, and I've learned a while ago you can't go right in because the cheese is still way too hot. You gotta take a slight pause.
That's what she said.
Oh man. Okay, so you're not worried about WWE in this transition alienating young fans?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, one, kids are tough. They can handle anything. And secondly, it won't be that much more different from whatever they're seeing in school, because I don't know if you remember, but like we be some nasty ass kids, both from a play perspective and a just learning about ourselves perspective. So it won't really throw them off that much. And again, I don't expect WWE to just suddenly turn into an NC-17 situation. Like I said,
Yes.
it might be PG-13. Maybe, like I said, on maybe like for WrestleMania season, you might see things a little bit more R-rated, but for the most part, I don't think that they're going to go that much that crazy with it. Like, I feel like when it does happen, it's gonna be like, oh shit, and then you'll be talking about it for like a week or two, and then then it'll be like, okay, when's it going to happen again? And that's what's going to get people hooked, because they're gonna be like, okay, it happened this time, when is it going to happen again? When are we gonna get that next nipple again?
1,000%. Oh, 1,000%. That's gonna be like a new little pervy stat that's gonna be going around. 1,000%. 1,000%. Okay, well, I mean, you basically said, hey, whatever happens with the talent is whatever happens with the talent, because they ain't have enough of them. I
think that, because like, for those who are fairly new fans to WWE and the wrestling in general, they don't realize that, like, back when Raw first got started, it was just an hour-long program on USA. And this was like 1993, and like, a lot went by in just an hour, and then eventually it went to 2 hours, and this was like before even Smackdown became a thing. And like, when it got to 3 hours regularly, I feel like it got to a point where I feel like the creative got stretched a little too thin, and then obviously because you weren't utilizing um, a lot of your guys that you had signed, it was like you're seeing the same stories that are going way too long, and and they're way too dry, and it just got really boring after a while. And I feel like this is an opportunity not just for fans, but also for internally for their creative to get to a place where we really start to see like, okay, what's going to stand out the most on this show? And that's going to cause a healthy bit of competition. It might cause a good, healthy bit of envy and jealousy, to be quite honest. But at the same time, I feel like at the end of the day, what you get is going to be much more to the point, much more impactful, and at the end of the day, that'll make Raw a much better show. Now, when they jump over to Netflix, of course, obviously there's no set time frame as far as how long the show can be. Technically, they could have a 4-hour show if they really, really wanted to. I doubt they will, but it's a fact is that you can. And I think that you're going to see, depending on how well the 2 hours go, um, in October and beyond, I think that you're going to see kind of like what the balance is on how they do on Netflix. That might be like 2 hours is our minimum, and then it's going to be like, okay, how much longer beyond the 2 hours should we go? Should we go maybe 15 minutes, maybe 2.5 hours? I I think that they'll probably save like the 3 hour Raws, like city, like whether it's like around the Rumble, whether it's around WrestleMania and SummerSlam, things like that. It'll be very, very selective. Like I said, I don't think they want to get back into the rut of having to run that much creative where they're probably losing the attention span is probably gone like after 10 o'clock, 10:30, things like that. Because like I said, 3 hours is a lot. 3 hours is a lot to commit to every single week. I'd rather they have this thing where less is more. I do feel like in this case, less is absolutely more, and it's going to work out great for him.
Oh man, okay. I'm trying to. I'm just looking over the roster, and
it's going to be some nut cutting for sure.
1,000%, and because all of these factions we also have going on without trios, like why have they not introduced trios title yet? I feel like that would open up so much.
I think because it runs over too. I feel like because it runs over too much over the regular tag teams, and it's like, if I feel like the only way that would work is if you said, okay, on SmackDown we have only trios, on Raw we only have the traditional tag teams. That's probably the only way I can really see that working out, because otherwise there's just too much run over. And especially when you have a case of where it's a faction that typically only runs traditional tag team, and then you just happen to have an extra guy like, hey, come roll with us, and then it becomes like, okay, this isn't really a full team. This is just 2+1 basically. And
I don't know, because like if there was a trios title, then I feel like that's some, I don't know, because I understand where you're saying, but
if you watch AEW and see like kind of like how they do it, like it again, like it's gotten to a point where like they went through a stretch earlier this year where like the Young Bucks, I think they still are tag team champs. So like I think they won the belts back in
they have both.
April, May, and they didn't defend the titles again until All In Wembley a couple weeks ago. So you basically went like a good 3 months without them even defending the belts, and a lot of people like to say that AEW had like the best tag team division. But I'm like, if your tag team division is that good, you should never have your tag champs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they should use they need to bump up the tag team and give it to real tag teams and make it a cool tag team title, and then use the trios for like frivolous fun things. Like give that to Judgment Day. Judgment, there's multiple of them. You could have them like bounce it around, lose it multiple times, and then give like that's what DIY really needs. They need to be champions, and they need to be able to be champions for a while because nobody's ever going to take them serious.
I don't
But
think they're going to take them seriously anyway, but that's a whole different story.
yes, but if you could just give them the titles and let them get like a legitimate run, it also, I think the tag teams like fucking, why can I not think of their names right now? And we want the smoke.
Street Profits.
Yes. Yeah. Like it give them that, like there are so many actual tag team people, but they want to just give the titles to the most popular and prevalent people. Well, if you
actually that
on them, give them a trios title. It's
actually you bring up something that I was that I was talking about on the YFW pod Twitter account. I saw a question on there a couple of days ago where they were asking like what critique would you if there was a critique that you would give Triple H since taking over, what would it be? And I went on the account and said easily it's the tag team division, because I feel like for one, we've kind of still ran into this place where the tag team titles don't really matter, because like you went through like since they got the belts off the Usos back last year, WrestleMania 39, I feel like just the importance of the tag belts has steadily diminished. And of course, they at WrestleMania 40 they split the belts back up. So now we're back to having tag champs on Raw, tag team champs on SmackDown, and for the most part, I feel like they really haven't put much priority to that. And of course, it's interesting given that it's Triple H, because if you watch Triple H back when he was running NXT, tag teams were his shit. Like because you had teams like DIY, you had teams like the Revival, you had teams like American Alpha, you had teams like AOP, and a few more, and like they made the tag belts matter there. So for him, now that he's running the main roster, I'm like, what's changed to where the tag belts don't matter like they did for him back in NXT? Like I don't know if it's possibly a business situation where it's like, okay, like are they not? Does it not draw? Because I feel like that's what helped make NXT draw back then. So I'm pretty sure they did the same thing on the main roster. They can make tag team matches matter again, and that's something that I'm just like, yeah, like if we could figure out a way to get that back in line, I feel like that would be ideal. And it's something that it's just like how they've kind of like taken time to remake certain stars. Like you had Chad Gable basically got remade under Triple H. You got Sami Zayn got remade under Triple H. You got Nia Jax that got remade. I feel like you can kind of do the same thing with the tag team division in general. Just like, hey, let's actually get some teams together, give them some time, give them some run, and turn it into something. Because I feel like they actually do have a solid tag team as champs on SmackDown with God, Girls of Destiny, and well, the Bloodline basically. And but I feel like on Raw, I'm not gonna say I don't like Finn and Funko JD, but at the same time, I don't feel like they really do a whole lot with those belts. I feel like it's just more. I feel like it's just a prop that's used in the story between Judgment Day and the Terror Twins, which I will never come around to. That name fucking sucks. It's better than Street Trash, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, it's not a great name. And it's unfortunate that he has the title because he doesn't need it and you can't lose it on the way to fighting. Oh, This is what bisexual Undertaker is that? Was that your nickname
Oh
for
yeah,
him?
Damien. No, it's not mine. It's just like that. That name's out there in the streets.
No,
So
put that on you, my guy. But yes, that's what people will call Damian Priest. So, and you can't. And if he loses to Damian Priest, are you just gonna have him then lose that title on top of it, and he's just double down bad? But I'm not gonna lie, Damian Priest this last week, I loved it. I loved his little speech to Damian. I loved his energy. Nah, bro, you ain't telling me what to do. I loved his energy. He's super intense. He's
I mean, for a little guy, like he's fierce. He's
yes,
fierce.
yeah. I was actually thinking that when he was like after everything, after he had tapped out Rey Mysterio and he's like standing there flexing, and then he jumps down and he's flexing and stuff. I was like, he's kind of a small dude, but he's just
ripped.
like ripped.
He's ripped.
He's ripped.
Like
And
that's the thing that if you ever hear me talking about some of the guys over on the AEW side that this like because they're often like the same height, but they're nowhere near as jacked as someone like Finn Balor. It's like take some time, hit the gym. It doesn't just because you're short doesn't mean you can't kick ass, but at least look the part. At least look like you could like you might be able to beat somebody's ass. And you want me to believe that Jack Perry is about to beat everybody's ass? I'm like, absolutely not. But you give me someone like Finn Balor, who's just the same size, possibly even shorter, but he looks like he could crush your shit with his hands, bare hands. And it's like, dog, like just hit the gym, just like do that part. Look the part. I keep getting Wire references in my head. Like look the part, be the part. Like do that shit. Do that part first.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm just again because we get back to it. If you want to get tag teams growing, but you're also cutting a show short and you're making all these
changes. And you know what? That's something that I feel like that could be an opportunity there too, because I feel like in order to stay relevant on the show, you might have to be like, hey, well, what if we turn into a tag team? That way we're still able to get airtime and possibly, you can keep using us until a later time where you might be able to might be ready to spin us off into singles. Like you got to figure out some way to figure this out, so that way it's about preservation and just staying in the game. Like you have to figure out a way to stay in the game, so that way when your time has come, if you do happen to go back to being a singles wrestler, you're still there. Because otherwise, if you don't provide ideas, there might be coming time where it's like, hey, got to cut numbers, and we like you a lot, but yeah, we're gonna have to let you go, and then you're on your 90-day clause or whatever. So yeah.
Okay. Gunther. Sorry, we gotta talk about this. Gunther getting the freaking Bret Hart bump.
That was hilarious.
Like, whoa, that is all of those. I know, right? Bill Goldberg. Gunther's great. He's out of here. I don't read any of the dirt sheets. Yeah, that's what those are called. Dirt sheets. Mm-hmm. I don't know where to even find any of that stuff. When I was listening to multiple podcasts, they were like, yeah, if you saw the dirt sheets, you knew that it was tied to Gunther. I had no idea it was tied to Gunther. So when he came out, I was lit. I was like, oh, bro's about to go crazy on Bret Hart. What? And I mean, for the most part, he really was respectful.
He gave his flowers, added with shade and everything. Because I mean, again, like he comes from a part of the world where, especially at the time when he grew up, like Bret Hart was that dude. And so especially over there in Europe, like where he really, that's really what was used in order to really make Bret Hart a consideration as far as being a world champion. They saw the reactions that he would get in Europe, being like, hey, what if we, could really push this, and that way he becomes big in the U.S. and Canada as well. And like I said, they said, okay, let's roll with it, and the rest was history. But yeah, like that was something that for how Gunter is typically presented as just all this super serious guy, that was like a moment of levity. It was like, dog, really? Because I'm like, you would think that Bret Hart would be again the quintessential guy that Gunter would idolize, and he's like, nah, I like Bill Goldberg better. I'm like, I see what you did there. I
Yeah.
see what you did there.
Yeah. It's
If only Bret Hart could still work, man. I swear to God, that would be. I feel like if Bret Hart could still work, that would be something where I feel like he would actually probably try to get back in shape and try to do a match for. I feel like he would try because I feel like Gunter is the type of guy that would be perfect for old man Bret, basically. So,
yeah. But
but
unfortunately,
yeah,
was
that's.
struggling to walk down.
I mean, Bret Hart's old. He had his stroke about 20 years ago. Like even like when he came back, like 15 years ago, you could tell that he was never going to be that guy ever again. And but at least he was able to like kind of halfway go out on his own terms. But yeah, like I said, it's a shame because like I said, like I feel like we saw, Ric Flair go into like his early 60s where he was still wrestling, reasonably well for his age and everything. And we got, just as we thought Bret was going to be a lifer when it comes to working, like, that Bill Goldberg kick changed all that. And that's why that beef still stands today. Like, and in all honesty, if I was making $2 million a year and then suddenly that shit got ripped out of my hands, I feel some type of way too. So
100%.
I get it.
100%. Bianca and Jade, I love them. I've now officially hit to a point where I am all in on them as tag team. But now
they got that lick back, got them belts back.
Yeah, and it's not even really about getting the title back. It's they officially seem like they're a tag team. They have like moves together. They're tagging each other in and out. It's they have fully told the proper story. Now I'm worried they're about to take it away and do this beef. And I don't know if it's good and who's going to be the heel, who's going to be the face. I don't know.
I mean,
this is kind of stressing me out.
So I think people have the expectation just because of Jade's history back in AEW, plus just Bianca's overall standing in WWE, that it would just be easy for them to make Jade the heel and Bianca stays a babyface. But I actually feel like there's an opportunity here to flip this and make Bianca a heel.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who were watching NXT back then, back during the Black and Gold era, and remember when Bianca was a heel, there's still some gas on that, and I'm like, and especially now that she has a better sense of self as far as her character goes, I feel like she can improve on what she was given in NXT back then and really turn that up and actually make that really some really good shit. And I feel like with Jade, like even like I said, even back in AEW when I said she was a heel for pretty much her entire run, but there would be moments where she would do stuff like bring her daughter out and reach for the hug basically. And I feel like she really wants to be a babyface in the worst type of way. And I feel like there's something there to where let's see what she can do. Like I said, hopefully in this past year, because of course they were making note of that back at Bash of Berlin, as far as like this has been a year since she's signed with WWE, so like she's had time now where she's spent time getting retrained, and now she's been on the road for the better part of the last 6-7 months, and it's like I'm hoping that she's in a space now, a year on, where probably by the beginning of next year, you'd be like, hey, let's see what she can do now as a singles, and see if this is somebody that can really we can go to as a possible women's champ. And obviously the money is there between her and Bianca. The money is there between her and Naomi, and then there's others on the roster as well to be like, yeah, like this should be a pretty good pair up if we can get there. Like, Rhea, Charlotte, definitely Charlotte, because they left that nugget there before Charlotte got hurt, and I'm like, there could easily be something there later on down the road. I think Charlotte should be coming back in the next couple months, so that'll be something that hopefully that gets worked towards in the next year. So it's something where I said I think that with Bianca and Jay, first we just got to get to the breakup first, and I feel like that's going to be a story in itself, because it's not going to be just an instant situation.
I mean, but you technically don't want them to dominate all a tag team, because then that just makes it all seem silly.
I mean, you do when you don't, because I feel like, again, like we're still talking about a fairly new championship, basically, because it's been around like what?
Well, yeah,
5 years, but at the same time, like, has there really been a team that's really put their stamp and say, hey,
no.
we have been the most dominant tag team ever? Because even like when the Kabuki Warriors were tag champs, it never felt like they were truly dominant. I feel like here we're gonna be like, oh shit, like this is like the best, like greatest, like this is like the women's version of the Legion of Doom and shit. So I think you want to have that, but at the same time, you have to have that in order to lead to the downfall.
No, exactly. But I'm with you. If they could just let them run it and be dominant for a year, let the tag team build, let them wrestle each other, laugh at each other, build multiple storylines, just have them just wrestle a lot and build their whole thing up. And obviously you can have them like smash and knock the people down, but it could just be like, all right, we're going to dub. It could be Isla Dawn and whatever, the Holy Trinity or whatever the hell they're called. You can just dub them now, because I mean they kind of did that trilogy thing really quick. Everybody knew they were going to lose, but if you want to, we can just stick with them and just have them move up and just keep getting knocked down. And maybe by the second or third time they go through the tag team titles and they introduce new tag teams that they're fighting and all these other things. And by the third time, it actually feels believable because they fought them so many times. You can be like, they've learned for their other times, because the whole question is how do you defeat Jade and Bianca, because they're just like, look at them. So
like the story would be like, how do you beat them one-on-one? Because I feel like,
yes,
like even like with
the answer is
with Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, like they beat them through a triple threat, and so they didn't actually I'm trying to remember if they actually pinned
no, I don't even think they pinned them. They were out.
Yeah, so like basically that's like the only way that you can get the belts off of them. I feel like there's going to be basically like, how do you beat them one-on-one without any other distractions, basically, whether it be another team or outside interference, things like that. And it'll like trying to figure that out, that like I said, that'll be a story in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, and again, like you'll run to a point where I feel like even with them as a tag team, they'll be like, well, where do we go from here? We've beaten everybody and we want to keep dominating. I feel like there might be a situation where you just might see like kind of like what happened with Bailey and Sasha, now Mercedes, back during the Thunderdome era, where it's like you had they were both tag champs as well as world champs for each brand. Like you might have something like that, and it's like just that constant competition within each other that might lead to that ultimate downfall of the team, where it's like suddenly they lose the tag champs, and then suddenly they're like, hey, I want your belt. I like having two belts, so I'm gonna go ahead and take yours. And then it's like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna go ahead and get mine. And of course, because they're on Netflix, they can get away with that shit and be like, hey, bitch, I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Oh man, yeah. I just, yeah, just so many questions because they can't lose the titles again in a triple threat. It needs to be in a straight up match. But the only way I think they do it is if someone faces them legitimately like 2-3 times, where it's like we've learned through it. We're gonna, and even then you can still have it be like a freak of a loss, but still, like just let them win. Someone trips and they do a quick pin off of them smashing their head on the turnbuckle, and then that can turn into the breakup from there. So since they break up, you don't have to worry about a rematch or anything like that. I just I feel like there's ways to figure it out that lifts both sides. I'm worried that if they rush it, it's just gonna alienate the tag team because like it just keeps being non-existent. They keep.
I mean that's something that I feel like it takes good storytelling.
Yes,
I mean, like because you ran into the same situation with Roman when he was champ, and then I feel like even with Gunter back when he was Intercontinental champ, like you had to figure out a way to keep this character and this belt relevant, despite the fact that this guy and this person is super dominant. And even like with the Usos back when they were tag champs. So it's basically like it's all about keeping the situation interesting, so that way people want to still tune in, because otherwise it's going to get very boring real quick when people just automatically assume like, yep, they're going to face this person, but they're going to lose. I feel like that's something where when it becomes too predictable, that's when it becomes a problem. And
Zayn is
I
getting
feel like,
smashed at Bad Blood, right?
say again,
Sami Zayn is getting smashed at Bad Blood
by who?
by Gunter.
I don't think it. Hold up. Yeah, that's right. I don't know about smashed, but
Smashed, like destroyed.
that's a good question because I feel like
He has to
obviously
because
I
he
feel like
lost
with
the last title to him, so he has to
right.
the revenge. And he's been talking about being the most dominant. He talks shit to Bret Hart, being he's the greatest in the future. Like he has no choice but to like embarrass Sami Zayn, like destroy him, knock him out, like beat him down so badly, but like not in a mischievous way, like in the wrestling.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Power bombs him like 5 times and pins him.
When you put it like that, I could definitely see like you would definitely see like a more aggressive Gunter, to where it very well could happen. I feel like I definitely, when you factor in what happened at WrestleMania, where it felt like Gunter kind of took Sammy not as seriously, and like he would just like basically like he was a joke, and then he realized that once he took his eyes off the prize, that's how Sammy got over. So I feel like you kind of have to have Gunter
overkill.
come in far more focused, far more aggressive, and leave no doubt that what happened then ain't gonna happen now. And it'll be curtains for Mr. Zayn.
Yeah, like I'm sure Sami Zayn's gonna have a more easily like 5 kickouts more than we thought he should get. But I just think on that 5th one, that's when Gunther's just gonna snap and he's just gonna lose it and just like I blacked out and just smash him and smash him.
That's out of character for me.
Happy
I'm not used to being that aggressive.
Just like, I'm sorry you brought something out of me, which is like, thank you for doing that. But also, you see what happens when you get in my way. I just
Mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Like it's so crazy that there's so much more for Gunter in his character.
Yeah, I think that's
so good right now. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, like we're still on the early phase of learning about who and what Gunter is. Of course, if if you've kept up with him throughout his career as Walter, you might have an idea. But I feel like for this audience, it's still a case of, peeling those layers and getting what this person is now, especially now that he's world champion.
And he's lost. I'm gonna be real. Now they lost the weight. It truly is like a completely different person. Like, yes,
you know what? Like it honestly does, because like I feel like Walter was that thick boy, and now you have Gunter, who's sleek, who's fashionable, who's wearing proper grown menswear, and like is a whole different attitude and an evolution of what Walter was. And I think that this is an opportunity here where it's like, okay, like you could really see the more sadistic side of who Gunter is now and what he'll be willing to do in order to keep the belt on him, because it only gets tougher from here.
Okay. Well, before we get out of here, I want you to also kind of explain what the fuck is going on in AEW. What is this? House is being set on fire. What is going on with like, bro, what's happening?
Oh God. I mean,
so I got that it's Swerve's, it's quote unquote Swerve Strickland's like childhood home.
Allegedly, even though that's a whole, there's a whole plot hole there too, but I digress. I mean, like this rivalry has been going on for over a year now, and of course, like I think their first match was last October, I believe. Like the one everybody talks about happened in November, where like, I mean, they were drinking blood and all that shit. Like it was gross even then. Yeah. And so they were tied up in the like the first two matches actually Swerve won. So I was like, Heyman ain't got much to talk about, because Swerve won the first two matches, like it was nothing. But somehow, some way, Heyman managed to work his way into the world title picture back when Samoa Joe was champ. And the first time it was a triple threat, and the way they were trying to tell it was like Hangman tapped out in order to keep the belt away from Swerve, but eventually Swerve ended up getting the belt anyway. And then during the world title match between Swerve and Bryan Danielson back at All In, Hangman made an appearance, to try to distract Swerve. Now keep in mind, like, it got pretty personal, so to speak, back last year, because Swerve broke into Hangman's house, started threatening his newborn baby, gave him a T-shirt and all that shit, and so it got all personal then, and that's basically what's been setting off Hangman ever since. So when the news came out about Swerve buying his childhood home, that same day, apparently Hangman was following him and stalking him or whatever. And as Swerve was in the arena, Heyman has a whole camera crew and everything. Say, hey, it'd be a shame if something happened to your childhood home. And the next thing you know, he sets that bitch on fire. Even though if you really look closely, it doesn't look like the same house whatsoever. But hey, Hollywood magic. But yeah, it's been wonky at times, but I would probably still say this is probably the best story that AEW has had over this past year. And it's something that, yeah, like what happened at All Out was kind of crazy, because they had syringes, they had nasty chair shots, and that's been a whole debate in itself. And only thing I can really say there is not everything's going to be for you. There might be some parts of the show that might be your cup of tea, and it might happen that this is not. I'm not going to tell someone to not watch AEW, because I feel like I'd be hypocritical to say that, because I've said on this podcast before that it's better for them to be around than for them not to be around. So if you are still watching AEW, keep watching that shit. Hopefully, this is something where they don't repeat very often, because I feel like it's something that as a major promotion they shouldn't lean on too much. Kind of like how we were talking about earlier with all the cussing and live sex on Raw. It's kind of the same thing here. It's like you don't want to do the death match shit all the time. Like this is something like you might do maybe once a year. If that, it might be something that you only pull out the hat like maybe like once every 3 years, some shit like that. But not something that you make your norm. But I like I say it wasn't my cup of tea, but again, I hope that it's not something that they have to do all that often, because it's not just about what you're doing in the immediate. It's about what, like how you're talking about long term. Was like Ricky Morton, famous tag team wrestler with the Rock and Roll Express. He commented about it on Twitter a couple days ago, talking about like how he has memory issues now that stem back from all the bumps and chair shots that he would take back when he was younger. It might sound good in the immediate, like you get that buzz, that pop from the crowd, you get over, you get your big check and everything, but at some point that equity pop adds up, and when you aren't wrestling as much and you actually have to go back and be a regular guy, those shots add up, and it's like, why hit somebody on the head when you can probably just hit them on the back and be good? And mind you, that's going to add up too, but it's something where it's like you got to think smart and not just in the immediate moment of trying to get over, because a lot of this shit this ain't worth it, especially if depending on what you're bringing in, you're basically going check to check. I feel like in their case they might be a bit better off, but I would hope that you'd want to create a better example, not just for the guys and girls around you, but also for the next generation as well, to where they don't feel like they have to repeat the same thing in order for them to get over. So think smart, not hard, and hopefully we can all get paid in the day.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, I mean, anything else that you feel we need to talk about or cover before we get out of here?
Hopefully the mystery of Odyssey Jones will someday be solved. It won't be tonight, though.
No, it won't.
That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, again, please hit the thumbs up, like the video if you watch it on YouTube. Audio, please rate 5 stars, review, all of those things. If you're watching on Twitter, give it a retweet, give it a quote tweet. If you just bumped into the stream, make sure you go ahead and follow either us at your favorite wrestling podcast at YFW Podcast. Check us out there. We will be here every Wednesday night talking to you about some wrestling. We are out here. Greggo, please plug yourself and let people know where they can find you, my friend.
You can find me at Greggo_82 on Twitter. You can find my mothership podcast at FTCUTD on Twitter, FTCUTD on FTCUTD Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And sometimes you'll see me on the YFW Pod on Twitter, giving y'all the good stuff. And we're just all trying to get by.
Ain't we though, man? Ain't we though?
Rest in peace to Frankie Beverly, Fat Man Scoop, James Earl Jones, all that stuff.
Man. All right.
I am your father.
Luke, I am.
Or Shannon would say, I'm your dad.
What? Oh my gosh. Oh man. We gotta relax. All right, Greggo, get us out of here.
This is your favorite wrestling podcast. If you can't be good, be bad.
Be bad, motherfuckers.